let's go. Hey, casual wrestling community show. You are
Okay, so speaking of Daddy Vince, with Vince McMahon officially being retired and Triple H taking over creative, when do you think that will like officially start to feel the effects of the Vince McMahon retirement?
Did you think Raw felt different this week?
Very, very, very different.
It did feel different. The pacing felt different. I know some people were like, well, it's a go-home show. That's the way they... I thought it felt different. To come on air and immediately have Logan Paul and The Miz fighting, we were like, oh, shit, is this...
I thought that we had missed something.
Is this from last week? What's going on? Like, we were arguing in the room, like, no, this is old footage. No, that's now. And so it immediately got the energy up. Instead of that cookie-cutter Vince McMahon...
Welcome to...
Monday Night Raw, yeah. That cookie cutter, send somebody out there and have them talk and warm up the crowd. We're going to do an opening promo. Instead of doing that, we start off with a little bit of action, and then right after that, we do the opening promo. It felt different. It also felt like, to me, much more like the Attitude Era, where we had certain guys appearing multiple times throughout the night. We do a fantasy wrestling league. We are part of a fantasy wrestling league. And typically, when we're watching Monday Night Raw, we look for our guys to show up one time. That's it. Like, if your guy shows up, you're excited. The Usos were on TV like 4 times in that night. You had Seth Rollins. You have different guys popping up at multiple intervals. The Street Profits. And it felt like a story was being built and not just... Here's the obligation of putting Kevin Owens on TV for 20 seconds. There he is. Now he's done. He can leave and go home. It felt like these guys were really there and they were really participants in the show. And I believe that's a Triple H thing. I also think a Triple H thing was the way he protects Logan Paul. I don't know if you noticed, but Logan Paul gets booed. The crowd will not accept Logan, but Logan wants to be a face. He wants to be a good guy. That's what everybody's saying. So what they're doing is they're using him in backstage segments. They're getting, when the show comes on and he's already in a fight, you don't know who they're booing, who they're cheering.
Yeah.
So and Maurice is able to get a boo when she comes out.
I did not notice that, but I think that's actually really interesting. So
they're protecting Logan, and I think that's another Triple H thing. It's just getting creative with where you place people within the show, and you're able to kind of hide the crowd reactions that you want to hide.
True. I think that we went to a live show, what was it, in Dallas? Mm-hmm. And then we went back and we watched it in person, and in places where like everybody was super quiet. We heard like crowd noise and all that stuff on TV. So that was kind of interesting.
Definitely. Strategically, where you place the microphones, I'm sure they pump some sound into the live feed. Why wouldn't you? It's a live feed. You're able to do those things. Another question is kind of, if we got a little bit of Triple H, how long until we feel the full extent of like the Triple H creative era? I think that, like I said, I think we already are, but I think after SummerSlam, Triple H will have his hands all over these things. And I think it's already started by removing certain guys, by removing Riddle from possibly, if this is all a work, by doing that, that's already Triple H going, I'm going to start some storytelling here. I'm going to start picking apart this card looked very familiar. Now, all of a sudden, there's some mystery around SummerSlam, right?
Yeah.
A card that we talked about just a week ago going, this feels like a lot of the same.
Baby WrestleMania.
All of a sudden, we start going, we don't know if Seth Rollins is going to get a mystery opponent. We've heard the rumblings of Bayley possibly coming back, of Charlotte possibly coming back. We don't know where Theory could cash in or not cash in. There's a lot of mystery surrounding SummerSlam now. Whereas it just seemed like a cookie cutter. Here's a repeat of Money in the Bank and WrestleMania. Just do what you do with it. I do feel like Triple H went, all right, hold on. I'm going to fix some of this. I get it. He cannot dissect the entire card and change it. But there are little subtle changes that he can make. And I think by the time we get to Clash at the Castle, WWE is going to have a very different feel to it. Yeah. I really do. I think that you're going to start to see this Triple H kind of momentum build up. And it looks to me the overwhelming consensus from people around wrestling is this is a good thing.
it made it refreshing. Like I've never experienced a Triple H moment, I guess is what you would say.
I mean, so the Black and Gold NXT was a Triple H creation.
See, I didn't watch that.
But people fucking loved it. The IWC loved it. The WWE fans loved it. Then Vince came in and somehow I think like it just got...
Is that when 2.0 came out?
Exactly. So that's what kind of happened was Vince saw it and he goes, oh, that's getting too wrestling-y. I need to turn this into what I want it to be. And he kind of took it over. I think Triple H's health was a little bit to play there, whatever. But yeah. So another question, just kind of steamrolling through this thing is, so Vince is done. And I know you get all the pessimists who are like, oh, he's a puppet master. I don't think so. I think the shareholders, I think everybody, I think there's a lot more to all this Vince McMahon shit.
I'm sure.
I think this rabbit hole goes real deep and I'm sure that it's going to be exposed slowly. So I don't think he's pulling the strings. I think for once in WWE, there is this break. There is air between Vince McMahon and the company. He still owns it. But I think like Triple H is running that show. Stephanie's running the company. These people are doing what they're put in charge to do. Saying that, how soon can we put Vince McMahon into the Hall of Fame? Because he has to go in.
The next Hall of Fame ceremony is when?
It's every WrestleMania. Every WrestleMania.
I think this WrestleMania.
See, I don't think you can't do that. There's no in the next, what is it? It's 180 days. There's going to be shit come out. There's going to be so much. And you don't want that stuff associated with WWE. The move to get him out of those positions was specifically to clear and put a separation between him and the company. I think it's 3 years. I don't think you can't do it in Hollywood. That's too soon. So you got to get a little separation. I think in 2 to 3 years, Vince will be about 80 years old. I think he won't be too old to appreciate it. That's right. You know, I think he will have settled into whatever it is he's doing. Retirement. There's no telling. He can go start another football league. There's a lot of things Vince McMahon can do with the money Vince McMahon has.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen the last of Vince McMahon.
No.
I think we may have seen the last of Vince McMahon as the head of WWE. Yeah, I think 3 years. I don't think it's this year and I don't think it's next year. I think at best it's 2. So this is Hollywood. They just announced Philadelphia. I think it's whatever's after Philadelphia is when you can put Vince McMahon into the Hall of Fame, probably comfortably. I think by then most of the dust will have settled. We'll know how big a deal this really was. And then we can give Vince the proper celebration. I think that
that's fair
Philadelphia, enough. I think Hollywood, you're going to get, it's going to be very celebrity driven.
Yeah.
I think that Philadelphia is going to be kind of a Paul Heyman celebration. I believe Paul Heyman will go into the Hall of Fame in Philadelphia. And then whatever that is afterwards, if they do New York or something like that, it would make sense because that's kind of a Vince area. I think that.
Where's he from? Do you know?
So WWE headquarters is in like Massachusetts.
Okay.
So I don't know where he's from, but I know that was kind of a territory for him.
Interesting.
So the reality of all this situation, to kind of wrap it up, is this to me is a good thing. I think it was a way overdue. I think Vince was out of touch already. At 77 years old, I don't think he knew what was going on anymore anyway. So this is the best thing that you could do. I wish that it didn't happen with like his name being tarnished.
Yeah.
You wish that he could have accepted kind of a mentor role to somebody, but I don't think that's inside his blood. I don't think he could ever just let it go. So I think the only way that we were going to ever get a WWE without Vince McMahon was just something had to happen to just like slice him off from the company. One thing I did want to talk about though.
Okay. What?
Because I saw Tony Khan, there was an article about Tony Khan, and the question I had was, will Vince's retirement and Triple H taking over WWE, how problematic will that be for AEW? And Tony Khan tried to cool this off and go, look, I've got guys under contract till 2027. That's a panic. When you say something like that, that's a panic statement. That's you saying, I've already got these guys locked up. They can't get away. That's great.
I get what you're
Adam
saying.
Cole can't get out of here. Malachi Black can't get out of here. I get that. That didn't stop Sasha Banks and those people from just fucking going, hey, fuck your contracts. Yeah. But anybody who says right now that AEW is not completely fucking nervous, that Tony Khan is not shitting his pants right now, they're in a state of delusion, because Triple H taking over WWE creative control, he is well liked within the wrestling. There were a lot of those names that jumped ship from WWE to AEW, they jumped ship because of Vince McMahon.
I was literally just about to ask you that.
It wasn't because of Triple H. So WWE is still the big leagues. I argue this all the time, but it's the big leagues. And now it's the big leagues minus Vince McMahon, who seemed to be kind of the problem that was keeping certain guys out of getting the position they wanted to get. If Triple H really comes in and he changes the culture the way that a lot of people believe he is, there are definitely guys who are going to jump ship. I believe wholeheartedly that this opens up a path for someone like MJF to make the change. Unless MJF has already signed a contract with AEW and they just haven't announced it and it's under the table, I do believe that he has to at least entertain the idea of going and sitting in a room with Triple H and saying, what could we do together? I'm 26 years old. What could we do together? What magic could we make if I come over to WWE? What do you have for me? I mean, I guess with no Adam Cole, he's locked up till 2027. That means probably no Britt Baker. Sure. So you're not getting those kind of names. But like names like Wardlow and some of those guys, these people, the playing field has been leveled. And I saw CM Punk come out and try and shit on WWE and do his whole fucking rigmarole thing where he comes out and it's always, the culture's not, Triple H is just baby Vince McMahon. I don't get that vibe. I'm not getting that vibe from the wrestlers who are excited about Triple H taking over. I'm not getting that feeling. So
do you think that like CM Punk is just like salty? Like, you know what I mean?
So CM Punk, and I have this written down and I wasn't going to say it. I don't know that he's mentally tough. I don't know that he's a mentally tough person. I think that he's a very good pro wrestler.
Okay.
But he's a guy, you go over to UFC and you just get the life beaten the fuck out of you. And you're a guy who talked so much shit and had all of this vibrato and kind of swag. And then all of a sudden you get the shit beat out of you and you became Mr. Humble. I don't like that. You got to like put up or shut up. You go to UFC, you think you're all of a sudden you go, I'm an athlete. I'm going to go show people an athlete. And you get slapped in the fucking face and you go, no, I'm just a guy who pro wrestles. That's what it is. Like guys like Brock Lesnar, he's an athlete who does pro wrestling. CM Punk is a guy who is a pro wrestler who does pro wrestling. There is a distinct difference in these guys, right? Roman Reigns is a football player he's an athlete. There are high level athletes, and then there are guys who just get really good at pro wrestling. And I think CM Punk is that guy, and somewhere along the line, he forgot that. CM Punk complains about injuries, right? All the injuries and things like that. But the injuries exist in AEW as well, and guys get put into bad positions in AEW as well, and you don't see them speak up, and I'm actually going to talk about that in the next topic, so I won't go too far. Okay. Last question I have for you. This was just a random thought that I had was, we know Sasha Banks. There's rumors that she possibly could come back now that Vince McMahon's gone.
Okay.
And this like, there's no possibility of this happening, but I just thought it was a fun what if.
Hit me.
When we did last week, I talked about Britt Baker and I said how good I thought Britt Baker was. Yeah. And people clap back and go, she's not as good as you think she is. Mm-hmm. I still think she's that good. Doesn't matter what they think. But would you straight up trade Britt Baker for Sasha Banks? Do you think that's a 1-to-1 trade?
Oh, 100%.
Do you think AEW would make that trade?
That they would take Sasha Banks? And
let go of Britt Baker?
Ooh, that's a hard one because I feel like Britt Baker is AEW. Like to me, she's 100% their star. But I think with Sasha Banks, you bring in, is Snoop Dogg coming with her? No. What the hell kind of question was that? No. Well, like when I say Snoop Dogg, I mean... The essence of Snoop Dogg? No. Snoop Dogg comes because he gets paid to come. Okay. I don't think that their relationship is like... Not like Sasha you're my Banks. Cousin, yeah, come on over here. I don't think Snoop Dogg's riding the coattails of Sasha Banks. I mean, just yes or no. Don't think about it. I'm going to say no. No, right? AEW does want to give her up. That proves my point. Yeah. Britt Baker is better than Sasha Banks. Because now, no shit. I'm signing Sasha Banks if I get the opportunity, if I'm AEW. Oh, yeah. But I'm not giving up Britt Baker. No. I'm not 1-to-1. I'm not making that trade because there's still a lot of unknown with Sasha Banks. How much of what she was WWE and how much of it was her talent. When forced to come into a company where there's not a lot of creative, like you just kind of, you're you. I love Sasha Banks. Like, don't get me wrong. But I think that she's a lot of, and I'm probably gonna get in trouble for this, like smoke and mirrors, right? It's the hair, it's the costume,
The glitter.
because she really doesn't have that much of a personality. Like if I put personalities of Britt Baker and Sasha Banks, right? Britt Baker would smash.
Britt Baker has a
Sasha
more
Banks.
well thought out character than Sasha Banks.
Yeah. And like even seeing her in interviews, right? At one point, she basically said, like, I wouldn't say this in real life, but my character would say this. Like there's thought in it.
Yes,
And like,
she definitely has a plan to who her character is.
Yeah.
I agree.
for sure.
All right, what's next?
Okay. So I'm going to butcher this